Okay, here we go. We got an update. So
Hold on. So real time.
Real time.
We're getting an update
we just got an update real time.
live to RJ's phone. Go.
All right. As of 3 minutes ago, California judge has delayed the highly anticipated resentencing hearing of Erik and Joseph Menendez, two Beverly Hills brothers serving life without parole for the 1989 murders of their parents. So it looks like that got delayed to sometime in January.
Okay.
So basically what was going on was they were going to have a hearing. There's three legal swords, as I like to call them, that they're using. The first one is...
The Menendez brothers?
Yeah.
Their defense team?
Yes.
Is it Mark Garagos?
Yes, and others, Mr. Gardner and things like that. But basically they're using three things. Number one, we have new evidence. That's called a habeas corpus. Habeas corpus means it's your last legal ditch. It's like a Hail Mary in football. It's when you're losing a game, you throw it, you go all the way to the end zone and you win. This is their Hail Mary pass. It might actually work. They got a guy...
New evidence?
Well, we talked about it on our last pod, Roy Sausalito from Menudo.
Yes.
The Puerto Rican band. He claimed that his father's, Lyle and Erik's father, was raping him and molesting him during the New York City Hall tour. Mm-hmm. So that could have been introduced to the trial. Well, that's a little footnote. We'll put a footnote in it. The second one is they found a note inside one of Erik's cousin's closet that details his concern about his father raping him, basically, and not so many
that
words.
He wrote at a young age?
He wrote at a young age, and they could pinpoint the timeline based on the fact that he said certain events, birthday parties, tennis lessons, and things where they have an idea of the range of when it was written. Okay. The question becomes, is that enough to give them a new trial?
So these are two pieces of new evidence.
Two pieces of new evidence.
And Garagos, his new defense team found these two pieces of evidence?
Well, I don't know if he did, but is using it. Somebody found it and gave it to him for tools.
Those are two pretty strong pieces of evidence, man.
Yes, but
both of them seem to corroborate the brothers' story that the dad sexually assaulted them, raped them.
Yeah, but the prosecutor's saying even if that's true, that's still not enough for defense. You just can't kill your parents because you were molested by them.
Agreed.
So you're stuck on first gear.
The only thing is, although it's not enough to completely sort of exonerate you of the crime, is it enough to mitigate your sentence to the point that you've already served?
That's the second part. So that's the habeas part. He might lose on that. The judge might say, no, I'm not going to give you a trial. Maybe they may give him a new trial. That's the option on the habeas. Either I give you a new trial or I dismiss the case. The second part is if they lose on the habeas, they filed a resentencing motion. So there's a second sword they're using. The sentencing motion is saying basically this should have been used at the trial to show it was mitigating information. Mm-hmm. And since they were under 25 years of age at the time, the laws in California allow resentencing under the juvenile sentencing laws. Okay. So if they're resentenced as a juvenile under what's called a Franklin hearing or resentencing law, then they would be eligible to serve 50 years, basically, for 25 and 25 for each parent. And they'd already have the time for that. So you already served 25 years.
Running concurrently?
Concurrently, yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, there's 25 members of Erik and Lyle's family, 25. That's never happened in murder cases before, where somebody's family member has been killed, where they've come forward and they said, we want Erik and Lyle out. We believe they were raised by monsters, and it's not their fault. Or the other half of the family saying, even if it is their fault, they've done the time. They've served their time. They would have been different had they had different parents. The only holdout is Kitty Menendez's brother completely believes that the Menendez brothers did it for money. There's no doubt in his mind. He's basically saying they're the monsters. But 25 other family members are saying, no, you got it wrong.
And he's a brother-in-law by marriage.
I know he's Kitty's brother, actual brother, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So her brother.
Her brother, if I'm not mistaken.
So brother of the victim.
Yeah, brother of the victim. But
she's the biggest victim. So even if he committed rape, the dad, still you don't shoot mom.
You don't shoot the mom. But again,
you don't shoot anybody.
But again, that goes to how much punishment. Now you're not talking about liability anymore. You're saying, all right, fine, they're guilty. How much time should they do? Well, under California law, if you're under 25, they consider your brain to be not developed and you fall into juvenile law, which makes the sentencing a lot less. And yes, they could be out after 25 years, which would make it time served for both the kids. So that's number 2, the second sword. First sword is habeas. Second sword is resentencing. The last sword, which I don't know if they have anymore.
Is it compassionate release?
Clemency.
Clemency.
Gavin Newsom, who apparently saw the Netflix special because his kids told him to watch it.
He has time to watch Netflix?
That's what he said in his podcast. He has a podcast.
Has he seen the situation in California?
Just tell him to do that, go out in the street and before watching these podcasts. I mean, these Netflix specials. But he said he saw it and he has a podcast. He talked about it. So I was going to throw an eye on it. He could grant clemency. He could commute their sentences and take him out. I don't know why he would do that. It wouldn't make political sense.
Well, it seems like it would be a popular move by the governor at this point.
They make him look weak. People are already saying he's weak, and he's got the eye of the presidency. You want to let two killers out?
I think what makes him look weak is his stance on homelessness, his stance on petty
That's
crime,
a part of it.
His stance on just general crime increases across the state. But these two brothers, and we've now established that their dad most likely assaulted them, raped them as kids, and so he's not saying they're innocent. I think granting clemency makes sense. Like, I might do that.
Well, what about the mom? Why did the mom deserve to get shot and killed?
I don't know. And
because she was aiding and abetting? I mean,
yeah, they were saying that she was as monstrous as the dad in some ways.
Fine,
like
but you can't kill. Again,
you're not allowed to kill her. But
prosecution's position is, and I agree, you just can't kill somebody because mommy was not a nice person. And
agreed. But they've done what, 30 years now?
Yeah. And
so it's like, have you done your time?
That's the question. The question is, have they done their time? So if they've done their time, if the judge agrees, he could be resentenced. I don't think they're going to win on a habeas. I think they'll win in a resentencing. I don't even think Governor Newsom's going to give him clemency. I wouldn't if I was the governor.
Maybe he's under too much political pressure now because he saw the recent election in California. Where
look what happened to,
exactly. We as citizens were very tough on crime. As citizens across California, it was Prop 33 or 36. One of a couple propositions. Yeah. One of them had to do with increasing penalties for theft and stuff.
Right.
We said yes.
We said no more to smash and grab.
No more smash and grabs. And then another one, which actually kind of made sense to me, was, hey, could we increase some of the rights of prisoners in California so that they don't have to have involuntary servitude? Meaning, let's not use them as slaves, essentially, which is what we do without paying them any kind of reasonable fee. I would have said yes to that, and I think I did. But the state said no.
Can I tell you something?
Keep using them as slaves is what California said.
Wait, hold on. There's a little bit of that law you should know about. The involuntary servitude I don't agree with because it's completely voluntary. You want to make money, you can. They don't force you. They don't open your cell and say get to work, and then they don't kick you.
It's voluntary.
You make.
It was written as
well. If you're gonna work, they pay you very little. That's true.
But you get to choose if you're gonna work.
Yeah, you don't have to work.
You mean they're choosing to go out into the forest and fight fires?
It's either you sleep in your cell and you play poker and you have a very boring prison life, or you go and do something.
Okay.
And that's completely voluntary. And is it unfair?
Are you sure it's completely voluntary?
I've been doing this 25 years. I don't have any clients that are forced to go work. I've never had a client that tells me that, hey, they're forcing me to work and I'm only making 18 cents an hour.
Okay.
Never. I've had clients say that they don't get paid a lot, but I ask them,
Gotcha.
I ask them, why are you doing this? And they're like, well, we get extra time. We get better meals. This is true. They get better meals. They get to come back to their cell later on at night. They get a little privileges and perks. Actually, funny story. My client said that they got Del Taco for dinner, apparently.
And that was good?
Yeah, it was great. So you get these perks. So yes, you're not getting paid necessarily what you should be getting paid, but it's not like they're forcing you. They're not beating you. They're not putting a gun to your head.
Got it. That makes more sense. So then in that case, maybe we got it right as a citizenry of this state. But we were tough on crime.
I think there was some lobbying or some trickery going on with that statute. That doesn't sound right what you just told me about the involuntary servitude.
Right. It might not be involuntary. It was. They were kind of trying to use an anti-slavery provision in the Constitution.
Maybe. I'm gonna reserve my opinion on that based on what I just told you because based on my knowledge, you can't force an inmate out of his cell to go work. You just can't do that. You could force him out to do like a check, a pat down, to go eat, to go shower, maybe even not. But just so you know, people refuse things. You could refuse to come out of your cell.
Yeah.
They could say, Tony, chow time. You're like, I ain't gonna go. They'll close the cell and you won't get chow time.
Okay.
You won't get. That's how it works. So they're not going to grab you. They're not going to say, it's time to go to work. And you say, I'm not going to go. They're not going to grab you, throw you out there and start
fight the fire.
Yeah. I mean, that's not what I know. You know?
Okay. Hey, I'm going to defer to you 100%.
You know, unless I'm off on this, that's not what I know. But yeah, that's the good thing. But getting back to this,
So you don't think the governor will grant clemency?
No.
Based on the climate in the state,
No.
we're tough on crime now.
Not only that, just look. If you're Gavin Newsom,
But they're not going to kill anybody else.
Yeah, I know, but
the Menendez brothers.
think like a politician. Why the hell would somebody that is possibly running for president in the future, and you and I know Gavin Newsom's going to run for president, it's not a surprise. Why would he have another Willie Horton on his hands? You know, remember Willie Horton? Remember when Bush ran against Dukakis? That's all we heard. He was weak on crime because he let a murderer go. His name is Willie Horton. And what did Willie Horton do when he was released
Probably
on parole?
killed somebody
He killed
else.
somebody. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, even if the Menendez brothers don't kill anybody, they don't have to. They could go on Dancing with the Stars.
They will. They might.
They could go on to ABC and give news.
Credit Bill Maher with that awesome joke.
The thing is, that will always be a thorn in the governor's side during the commercials. What did Gavin Newsom do? He let 2 murderers go. They were serving life. Weak on crime. We don't need Gavin Newsom. You know, and then all these. He doesn't want that. And even though it's 4 years away, I'll use it against him for the rest of his life. So why is he going to stick his neck out for Menendez? It's not like we're going to vote for him extra because he voted for, he let him go.
Right.
They're not going to come out in troves and say, oh, you let Menendez go? Well, we're going to vote for you now.
Right.
What's the incentive? So I don't think they're going to get clemency.
The only incentive I could see, if there is one, would be just playing into popular support. If he's trying to tap the political wins, and he's like, I think a lot of people do like the Menendez brothers getting out because of the monstrous background that has now been shown. If this Menudo singer is really accurate and he's saying, hey man, I also got raped by this dude, that really corroborates their story. And maybe Newsom goes, dude, popular support is behind these brothers. That's the only benefit I could see to him, if any.
There's a saying, penny wise, pound foolish. If he does that in the short term, he'll be a winner. They'll think he's a kind person and whatever. But in the long term, when he runs again for office, they're going to use that against him. Every single thing that he says. Oh, yeah, I didn't think it was that much of a big deal that he killed his mother, so we gave him clemency. Oh, I think they served their time. Every word that he says will be put in a commercial.
Yeah.
So will he do it? I think it'll be foolhardy for him to do it. Could he do it? Yeah, sure. I guess if he wants to follow the trend and be politically popular for now. But if I was his advisor, I'd tell him not to do it.
So what is you've outlined 3 things. One is 2 new pieces of evidence, which are pretty compelling.
Habeas
2
corpus.
is a resentencing, and 3 is clemency. What do you think is going to happen?
I think they're going to get the resentencing.
Number 2.
I think they're going to get number 2. That's the most realistic. I don't think the habeas is going to fly because they're not going to give him another trial again. And as far as the clemency,
even with new evidence, that's wild to me.
But
I would want a new trial.
If they present that evidence, they still have the problem of why they killed their mother. Mm-hmm. That's not going to undo. That's not going to provide any defense for them. Even if Royce Salsaludia was raped, even if he was raped, you can't kill your mom.
Right.
It's only mitigating. It's not a defense.
So then let me understand that. So in terms of retrying that criminal case, it's almost moot because on the binary question of guilty or not guilty, they would still be guilty.
I believe so.
And then it would just
go to sentencing.
Punt to the sentencing issue, and then it's like, hey, we do maybe need a resentencing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that this was a sentencing issue from the get-go.
Right.
I think that what they were trying to fight for, what Leslie Abramson, who was the public defender at the time, I think she was shooting for manslaughter, something less than the murder case. Manslaughter is when you kill somebody in a heat of passion, when you don't have a cooling off period. The boys apparently were really paranoid about their parents killing them. She made an argument that paranoia never went away, even though it was subjectively or objectively not a reasonable paranoia. She said subjectively, in their mind, they thought they were going to get killed. So that makes it a manslaughter. It's just the same thing as if you walked in on your wife and she was cheating on you. You were going to kill your...
It's like physically you did the crime,
right.
but mentally you're a little less culpable.
Yes.
It wasn't like you sat there and planned out how
Right.
you're going to murder him in cold blood. It was like you were overtaken by your passions in a way that maybe many people would be.
But here's the problem with that. They went and bought a gun a couple of days before. They got the bullets. There's a lot of preparation and planning. So it's hard to undo. It's hard to overcome that notion that they were in a heat of passion.
Premeditation.
Heat of passion. But I guess you could still make the argument, look, they just got the gun for protection. And right before the murder is when they felt threatened and they did have the gun and they used it. But, it's hard to finesse and nuance that in front of the jury to parse that and to say, yes, they got the gun, but, don't look at that. Look at the time when they actually killed him, and that's how they felt.
It's like they premeditated, but let's forget about that because later there was a heat of passion.
Right.
But that's tricky.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
That's very
well,
tricky.
And it didn't work.
It didn't, and the juries, found them guilty. But here's the interesting thing. Did you know the first trial they were found, it was a hung jury?
No.
It was a hung jury.
Okay.
So
then they retried him?
They retried him. I think it was 6-6, if I'm not mistaken. 6 females voted not guilty. 6 males voted guilty.
Wow. So
they
the
retried
females sort of saw through to the rape thing somehow, or had an instinct.
I think they were a little bit more sensitive to that. Yeah. But here's on the retrial. Watch, on the retrial, they did not allow Erik or Lyle to mention the molestation, and they were found guilty. That's why they filed the habeas. They're saying, you didn't allow us to mention this.
That's crazy.
That's why we should get a second trial.
That makes sense.
It does kind of make sense.
That would affect, but again, back to your point, still guilty with respect to the mom, no question.
Right. We're back to that same old checkmate, as they say in chess.
Yeah.
And the checkmate is basically, so what?
Yeah.
All right, let's just say you were raped by your dad, and why'd you kill your mom?
Yep.
And even if you killed your mom, why did you planned it days in advance. It's not like you took a shotgun from your dad's closet and just blasted him. You went to different stores. A couple of stores rejected you. So you knew you were going to kill him.
Right.
That's the problem. So again, I don't think they're going to get their
But I have a question on that point.
Sure.
So in the second trial, they did not allow mention of molestation for the facts to find him guilty. Did they allow that in with respect to sentencing?
Good question. I don't remember if they did. I'm sure they did.
They should have. Right?
It would be malpractice for a lawyer not to mention that in sentencing. I'm sorry, but
they probably did.
But the problem is it doesn't matter because it's minimum sentencing guidelines. So even if you say, they did all this, the problem is, the judge is going to say, look, my hands are tied. He's looking at 25 to life, each person and so forth. And
he didn't mitigate at all, he or she, whoever the judge was?
He can't lower it based on what the legislature sets the law. So if the minimum is 25 years, the judge can't undo that.
But there are mitigating circumstances that the sentencing guidelines allow.
But you can't go below 25. So even if it's super mitigating, now you could go above that. Now your fear is you're wondering, well, what's the point of mitigating? Because it could be above 25. The prosecutor could say 35. The judge could say 45.
Are these guidelines? These were very binding guidelines on judges back in the day. Are they
still are?
Are they equally binding today, or has it loosened up and we have more judicial authority in any way at all?
For serious cases, they're very binding. So if you have a burglary, rape, murder, kidnapping, they're binding. I mean, the judge has really not a lot of power.
What's the logic? We just don't want the judges to have leniency?
We don't want judicial activism.
Where they just let people off.
Where one judge just feels, I'm not going to give you the sentence. I think you're a nice guy, so I'm just going to give you 4 years.
Honestly, that's the judge's domain, though. I feel like we're a little bit...
But there could be a lot of corruption with that. There could be activist judges that just run for 4 years because they want to let loose a lot of people. They could just let loose 15 people.
And what would be any check on that?
There wouldn't be. She has the power to do it.
Maybe they would be then not elected again?
Well, no, you could get removed. The presiding judge could remove you. Look, everything that you do as a judge has to be justified. You just can't let people, willy-nilly go.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let me be honest with you. If you're a lawyer or a smart judge, you could couch your legal argument to show what the legal good faith reasoning was to let this person go. You could BS a legal argument if you wanted to.
Got it.
As you know, Plessy versus Ferguson was legal. Separate but equal, right? If you're black,
it was under a different
but if you read that, they convince you that separate is equal. White people and black people should be different,
right?
And they used intellectual dishonesty to do it.
Back then, did they?
Yeah, of course.
I have to go back and read it.
It's called intellectual dishonesty.
Do you think they believed they were doing the wrong thing? I mean, they were clearly racist in their ideology.
I don't know, but you could use, I'm saying judges and lawyers could use that same intellectual dishonesty to arrive at a conclusion. It's just like saying, well, I don't want you to do that, so how am I going to legally formulate this to make it happen?
What if they weren't intellectually dishonest? They were just literally racist.
Well, you would see that the judges are always audited. So again, going back
I'm just talking about Plessy.
Well, back then it was different. The Supreme Court was different.
Yeah.
But now we have a little bit more checks and balances. The levers are different. So in this case, in this case, you would have a little bit more authority. Like if the judge wanted to do that, you could kick the judge out. You have a presiding judge. The judge would be able to reprimand you. And by the way, the judge will ask you if you let a hypothetically, let's play a mental game.
Yeah.
Let's just say a judge could do that, let a murderer go, and there was no sentencing guidelines.
Because he knows him through a friend.
No, maybe he feels bad for him. Let's just say it's an indigent minority, and he has a soft, bleeding heart for him.
Sure.
He lets him go. A presiding judge is going to sit down with him and sit down.
Who's
and be
the presiding?
There's always a presiding judge in every single courthouse. It's a shot caller. There's a boss of bosses. Like think of it like the mafia. Okay.
So the head judge.
Yeah,
of all
there's
the
a shot
judges?
caller. Yeah, just like in a gang, there's a shot caller. There's a shot caller, and there's a head judge.
The managing director.
The managing judge will sit down with you and be like, "Hey, by the way, these other judges told me you let that murderer go. What's that all about?"
Yeah.
And the judge is going to have to explain, well, this and that, and legally this and that, and the judge is going to be satisfied with that.
Got it.
Because if the judge believes,
name is on the line or something.
not only that, but he wants to make sure this. He took an oath. The presiding judge took an oath that the system is not being abused.
Right.
That when you're a judge, you go through training. You take an oath. You're supposed to abide by the law.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, again, we're just playing a mental game. If the judge was allowed to free the person, the judge needs to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not there anymore. So the reason we have minimum is so that we don't have these issues. So that
What's not there anymore?
there's no discretionary sentencing.
Got it. Now it's
With
out of
murder. I mean, it's never been. With federal court, now there's more discretionary sentencing. There's something called Booker sentencing, BEOOKR. USB Booker basically said before in federal court, judges had to throw like 20 years at you for coke cases. If you had a little itsy bitsy of coke, you went away for a long time. Judges couldn't do anything about it.
And no way to mitigate.
No way to mitigate.
to.
Yeah, horrible. It was draconian laws. Then they undid it. Then they passed a law saying, you know what? As a judge, you do have the right on some cases to do that and to lower it.
That makes sense to me.
State court cases don't have, the judges predominantly don't have that for violent crimes because there's minimum time that we want a society for people to do.
Yeah, for violent crimes.
Right.
But not drug-related possession charges.
Not drug-related. On the drug-related crimes, a judge could suspend the sentence, have a little power to freeze time, kind of the way other judges
put them into treatment.
could put them in treatment. Depends. Could do some things like that. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But in this case, yeah. So getting back to Menendez, this judge is not going to have a lot of leeway. You know, they're gonna have three options. Either give him a new trial, which I don't think that's going to happen. It's not feasible. Everybody's dead. Most of the police are dead. The investigators are gone. I don't know. His cousin is dead.
Don't waste taxpayer dollars adjudicating
$3 million.
On
They're
that.
saying it's going to cost $3 million in security and everything to run this trial.
We don't need that.
Why do we want to run a $3 million trial? I think and by the way, again, I'm going to sound like a liberal criminal lawyer. I'm not liberal. I'm a conservative guy. Okay. So these people have served 25. These two individuals served 25 plus years. According to their prison record, they're exemplary. They started a green project where apparently there's zones of safety. Lyle and Erik wanted zones of safety because, in prison you get beat for no reason, for stupid reasons. They created these zones of safety where prisoners could talk freely and not worry about getting hurt, and educational programs and spiritual programs and all these different continuing educational programs. They've been very involved. The prison authorities are going to make a recommendation to release them. But here's a kicker. Here's something you should know. That's interesting. So watch this, Tony. What happens if the government, the state says, fine, we're going to give you 25 years. Watch this.
Retroactively.
It's not over yet because Gavin Newsom's got to sign it. And if Gavin Newsom doesn't sign it, because he's the guy that will authorize the release. If he says no, he could actually say no to the parole. He could reject a parole. He is the ultimate person, the governor, that decides whether a parolee gets released or not. So watch this. If he's not going to grant them clemency, let's say in his mind, right?
Yeah.
Then is he going to grant them? Is he
might.
going to sign off on this after the judge says, okay, I'm going to resentence him?
Only one reason he might, because his neck isn't as far out.
True.
It's the judge's neck. And he's like, I'm going to defer to the judge.
He could say politically at that point in time, all I'm doing is it's just a formality.
Well, the judge made a decision.
Yeah, judge made a decision. I'm just formally signing it.
Yeah.
But
by the way, is that a resentencing or is that parole?
The judge would resentence him. Then the parole would make a recommendation for release.
Because they're literally past their date?
Way past their date.
Of course. Well, do you need parole?
Well, they would send a letter to the parole board. The parole board has its bureaucracy.
It's just a formality.
It's a
of
bureaucracy.
How it works.
Welcome to America. Yeah, you have
Well,
to.
you
You have to go through a parole
got to
board,
be a system for it. I guess.
and then the parole board makes a recommendation, sends it to the governor, and the governor then decides whether or not he's going to be released. The governor could say no. Will the governor say no? Like you said, I don't know.
Not in number 2. Number 2 sounds like it'll fly. Like your opinion.
I think so. I think why at that point in time he could just blame it on the judge, but.
So when would that happen? Under this prediction, when would Lyle and Erik come out?
It just got pushed out. So I predicted it was going to be done. Today was the day they were going to have the sentencing here. Today was the day.
So no Thanksgiving for them.
Right. And I thought they were going to get up by Thanksgiving because if it was decided today, in my opinion, it may have went their way. But we got to wait till January now. But I still think they're going to be resentenced. And I think I don't think they'll get blocked. I'll be surprised if Governor Newsom blocks. I don't think they're going to win their habeas. I think they're going to lose the habeas. I think they're going to lose. They're not going to win clemency. I think their only shot is resentence. The new prosecutor that just came in said he's going to independently review it himself, which is very rare. He himself, he said, it's so important. He's going to actually go home. I'm picturing the new DA with boxes on a Saturday, just going through reading every deposition, reading every, preliminary transcript, reviewing it, and he's going to come to his own decision at that point. So the old DA is powerless at this point.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank God for that.